Is it safe now? Is it safe to talk about this Vikings game? It felt pretty safe when they were up 27-16 with less than 30 seconds left in regulation. Bears had the ball deep in their territory, but it was like, okay, they've got to go touchdown, 2-point conversion, onside kick, quick completion, spike the ball, field goal. They did all of those things. The Bears converted the very first onside kick of the entire NFL season, according to the Fox broadcast. Vikings stunned. All of a sudden, it's 27-27 after that entire sequence. I'm sure their win probability had to be like 95, 96%. That's a Bears special, by the way. That's how the Bears typically lose those games, is they have a high win percentage and then they lose. All of a sudden, it's 27-27. It's overtime. You're thinking, oh my gosh, Vikings were 8-2 on the verge of going 9-2. You could feel it. They were almost on the plane. It was almost like they were on the plane ride home. You could feel it. The game was over, and then it wasn't. Bears win the toss. I would have given you like 99-1 odds that the Vikings would win the coin toss, which they didn't, of course. I knew as soon as they called tails, it was going to be heads. I've just watched that game over and over again. I've seen this Vikings game a billion times. Maybe that's too many, but I've seen it 20 or 30 times. I've seen them lose this game 20 or 30 times where it's like there's no way they can lose, and then they lose. So it's 27-27. Bears get the ball to start overtime. You're thinking quick, easy, painless touchdown. It's going to be 33-27. The Vikings are going to go home massively disappointed, feeling like, man, they let one slip out of their grasps. Instead, the Vikings make a defensive stand. They get somehow, some way, they get a 3-and-out from the Bears. They get Caleb Williams, who was really good all day. Impressive for a rookie. Impressive what he did with his feet. Impressive what he did with his arm. He made a lot of huge plays. But on second down, like 2nd and 9, he stood around forever and took a completely unnecessary sack. Jonathan Grenard, I believe, was the one that got him. Set up 3rd and 21. Then they have a delay of game, just a total derailment for the Bears on that series. Vikings get off the field. They don't do anything dumb on 3rd down. They hold them to like a 10-yard gain. Punt, Brandon Powell has been good. He's been actually running balls back. This one probably should have fair caught, but he gets tackled. It's like the 21. Definitely down by contact. Wasn't a fumble or anything like that. So then Sam Darnold takes a sack right away. It's like 2nd and 16. And you're like, man, they're backed up. What are they going to do? Sam Darnold makes 2 big-time throws. Gets one to Hawkinson for like 6 or 7. Gets one, I think, to Addison next. Gets the first down. Finds Jefferson finally. Jefferson had not much today. I'll get to this in a little bit, but just kind of the final sequence here. You get Hawkinson over the middle, then a big one to Hawkinson down the field. I was a little surprised they didn't work more clock just in case Romo missed that field goal. They could have brought the clock probably down all the way to like 1:20 and then kick the field goal. But instead, they kick it on 2nd down. Romo drills it. They must have a lot of faith in Parker Romo, by the way, a guy who they've had in camp before, but a guy that they just brought in basically cold off the street after Will Reichard was hurt. He's been great. He missed the 1 extra point, I think, in one of those games, but otherwise he's made all his field goals, makes the game winner. They have tons of confidence in him. So 30-27, rescuing a game that they almost gave away in unbelievable fashion. Like I said, I've seen them lose that game so many times. You dear reader, you dear listener, you dear watcher, have probably seen the Vikings lose that game a million times. Somehow, some way, they don't lose it. They go 3-0 on this stretch of 3 road games. They're 9-2 now on the season. 9-2 on the season. Style points at the end of the year. I made this point last week. Style points at the end of the year do not matter. Now, until the final 2 minutes, I thought this was their most complete game in a while. I thought Sam Darnold was tremendous almost all day, and especially on that last field goal drive. But his final numbers, winds up 22 of 34, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, big-time passer rating. Nick Mullins, by the way, huge completion when he came in when Darnold was injured for a couple plays. Mullins got a third down conversion, 1 of 1 for 14. Darnold was huge. Aaron Jones goes over 100 yards, 22 for 106, shows what I know. Last week I was talking to Andrew Kramer. I'm like, they got to sit Jones. Doesn't look right. They got to get him healthy. He goes for a $106. Had the fumble early. That's concerning because that's twice now this year he's put the ball on the ground when he's almost in the end zone. Don't love that. But in the second half, gets a rushing touchdown. First Vikings rushing touchdown in the second half of a game by a running back in 27 games, they said on the broadcast. The Dayton Triangles. I did not know there was a team called the Dayton Triangles. Apparently hold that record. I don't know who did the research on that. I don't know who has the time to look that up, but apparently they looked it up. 31 games in a row for the Dayton Triangles. Probably back in an era where that mattered. They probably ran the ball a little bit more in the time of the Dayton Triangles, but the Vikings had not had one in 27 games in the second half by a running back. Got one from Aaron Jones. Looked like they were cruising, right? It was like 24-10 at that point. Yeah, the Bears got one back, but then the Vikings had a nice drive, went up 27-16. And it all fell apart, right? Like the kickoff doesn't go through the end zone, so the guy runs it back to the Vikings territory. Caleb Williams gets him in the end zone, but it feels like it took too much time, right? It's like 22 seconds left, but they get the 2-point conversion. They get the onside kick. Just I don't even think Johnny Munt did anything wrong. He's trying to block guys out of the way, just hits him in the leg. Like, that's what happens. It was one of those things where it's like, oh, man, like everything was happening against the Bears, all the dumb stuff, the muff punt that they had that led the Vikings to one of their scores. The guy, Keenan Allen being barely out of bounds, and then the Vikings blocking another field goal. It's 2 field goals in 2 weeks the Bears have had blocked. Like all the special team stuff was going the Vikings' way until that onside kick. But I thought they were really impressive. And then the opportunity to show their resilience. And again, I think that's like gets overblown sometimes. Like sometimes it's just you're the better team. And I think they are the better team against the Bears. I think the Bears are improving. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a problem as he starts to figure stuff out even more. He was very good in this game, made some plays with his feet. He finished 32 of 47, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So he had, the Bears had almost 400 yards of offense. Vikings had like 450. They had a lot of offense in this game, so they were moving the ball. They got to show their resilience, though. And again, that gets overblown sometimes. Sometimes it's just you are the better team. You are managing the game better. But in this case, they had to overcome that. They had to overcome their own 2-minute lapse at the end where the defense didn't come through the way it needed to. The special teams had a couple gaps where they give up the big return and, of course, the onside kick. The defense, again, gives up a big play down the field to get the Bears into field goal range, and the Bears drill that kick to force overtime. And you're like, oh, man, what is happening here? Bears, 4-6. They've lost 4 in a row. Vikings 8-2 coming in. They've won 3 in a row. You're like, is this where the season falls apart? So it didn't. That's the important thing. They bank this win. They get it in the win column. Somehow, some way, they get it in the win column. Again, I thought they were really good most of the game. Like, the Bears were doing some Bears things. Jordan Addison had a massive game, 8 for 162 and a touchdown. Hawkinson, 7 for 114. Justin Jefferson, really quiet, 2 for 27, but they finally made a team pay for giving so much attention to Justin Jefferson. I thought that was the most impressive part of Darnold's day, that he found Addison, that he found Hawkinson, that they made them pay for all the attention they were paying to Justin Jefferson. I think it helped Aaron Jones. Jones had a couple huge runs. I think they finally unlocked how you beat a team when everybody is giving double attention to Justin Jefferson. Now, we'd love to see the ball to Justin Jefferson a little bit more, but at the end of the day, what matters is the offense was explosive. It should have been an easier win, but at the end of the day, a win is a win. Now, you can kind of go back and look at some of the key moments in the game, right? I thought the Nick Mullins completion was huge. Obviously, the muffed punt by the Bears was huge. That whole sequence where like I said, where the Bears don't get the play down by the goal line, it's ruled incomplete upon further review. And then you get the blocked field goal. Vikings go the other way, score a touchdown after that. The Bears were close to going up 14-7. Suddenly it's 14-7 Vikings. Like, there's all those little moments in a game. But those are the moments, those are the plays, those are the weighty downs, as Kevin O'Connell likes to call them, the weighty downs that they have been so good on this season. And again, we're good on today until the end. So, I don't know. I guess what you take away from this game is the Vikings were kind of doing the things they've been doing all year. They had a 2-minute complete meltdown, but they found a way to overcome that. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to overcome quite that level of meltdown against some of these better teams. That's a good point to make, right? Like, they just beat the Colts, the Jaguars, Tennessee, the Bears, all teams with losing records, all teams that are on the downswing, right?
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
Now they're going to play a bunch of teams that are at least better, right? You got to play the Cardinals. You got to play Atlanta. You know, Atlanta's been slumping a little bit, but the Cardinals are going to test them next week. The Vikings have 3 games in a row at home, but it's the Cardinals, it's the Kirk Cousins Falcons game, and then it's the Bears again. You'd like to think they can win a couple of those. I think they'll be favored probably in all 3, but those are going to be tougher games. At least those next 2 for those are going to be tougher games than what they've faced lately. They can't have those kind of same lapses, those same moments like they had today. You still got Detroit again later. You still got to beat Green Bay again. You still got Seattle on the schedule. Like, you've got some tough games on the schedule still. The schedule gets harder. This was the squishy middle where we thought they would do damage. I don't think they played their best in this middle, but they won all the games, and that at the end of the day is all that matters. Omelet wants to know on Blue Sky, can the Vikings learn to control the clock? It is frustrating that they can't get a yard on the ground when they need a yard on the ground, unless it's like a foot, and then they just have Sam Darnold sneak it. If it's a full yard, a true yard, they have to try to gimmick their way through it, or they hand it to Jones and he just doesn't get it. When a team knows that they are going to run or feels like they're going to run, more often than not, they get shut down. They tried 4th and 1. They tried a shotgun play on 4th and 1, empty backfield. Like, that's how desperate they are. I thought Darnold could have scrambled for that. It was a great play by the Bears defender. He knocked it down. It looked like it was going to be completion to Hawkinson. Bears got a hand on it, incomplete. But their lack of short yardage, I guess I would say execution, is problematic. That's the thing that they've got to fix. That's the thing that they've got to get better at. They've got to find some keys to unlocking that. Yes, Aaron Jones got a rushing touchdown. That was a good development. But in general, that is still something they need to work on. That is frustrating. So I'm with you, Omelet. I don't know when they're going to get better at that, but I'm worried that in some of these bigger games, when they're magnified, when you're trying to get playoff seeding, when you're trying to secure spots, when you're trying to win a playoff game eventually, and they're going to be very close to locking up playoff spots probably here in the next few weeks, I would think. They're 9-2 right now. They're on the cusp right now of being that team right now, but they've got to clean up those situations because they're not always going to have the benefit of the doubt in those cases. I mean, right now, Packers already up 10-0 on San Francisco as I speak right now. Like, the Packers aren't going away. Detroit isn't going away. Detroit's excellent. Like, Detroit is going to be right there. The Vikings have already lost to Detroit at home. Detroit looks super explosive. They didn't have any trouble today. They were kind of on cruise control. They beat the Colts 24-6. Like, not a ton of surprises today. So I'll be interested to see how that all plays out. Commanders losing was a bit of a surprise, but everything else, not much of a surprise in terms of what we saw from the other games. So it's up to the Vikings to clean some of this stuff up, but I'm still impressed. Like, Kevin O'Connell impresses me every week with his ability to get the most out of this in general and to rally things when they are going poorly. And I do think that this could have gone sideways. A different demeanor on the sidelines, a different belief on the sidelines. The body language could have got bad. They could have just pouted their way to a loss. They could have been demoralized. Instead, they get a stop. They get some big plays on their first offensive drive. They have faith in their kicker. They kick the field goal. They win the game anyway, even after all that. So I guess exhale. Don't be mad. I was maddening for about 15 minutes, but now it's not mad. Like, you had the Gopher game yesterday. That was maddening. That was frustrating. You've had some Timberwolves results lately that have been frustrating. The Wild, rally to get a point on Saturday, but this felt like it was part of a weekend that could have been pretty bad. Instead, they lose their momentum and they get it back. It's impressive that they're able to do that at the very least. It's a good club to have in your bag. And I'm sure Royce and I will talk a whole lot more about this on Monday's Daily Delivery. Thanks for joining me live right now. Thanks for joining me here on the podcast. We'll talk again soon.